my channel, Hexes and Horrors. My name is Ashley, and in today's video, we're talking about the best time of year to visit Salem, Massachusetts, especially if you're trying to avoid crowds. This is a question that, like anything, people will have varying opinions on, but I think most of the people I know would agree that the best time to visit Salem is in the spring. Now, that being said, I think that everyone who visits should visit in the fall at some point in time, and particularly in October, but the crowds can get old real fast. Almost everyone wants to visit Salem in October, understandably. It's haunted happenings, it's Halloween season, it's October. The first 6 or so years that I visited Salem, I always went in October. I never went any other time. It was just October. That was my introduction to Salem, and I always wanted to go back during the same time. But it wasn't as crowded then as it is now. And now I still visit in October as well as other times throughout the year. But at this point, I've already seen and done really almost everything there is to see and do there. So when I go in October, I'm kind of just hanging out, visiting friends, and just enjoying everything, people watching. I'm not really there to go to attractions or go to museums or have any kind of really set itinerary for the most part. So if you're going for maybe a first time, or if you just don't like the crowds or you get really claustrophobic or uncomfortable when there's a lot of people around you, then spring is a perfect time to visit. I would specifically recommend late April to mid-May because early to mid-April can still be pretty cold there, but by around early May, the flowers will have bloomed, everything will be looking gorgeous, and really any time outside of the fall is a great time to visit and avoid crowds. But it can be bitterly cold in New England in the winter, and it can be way too hot in the summer, especially when you're walking around all day, because Salem is a walking town. I went one time with my mother in July, and it was an actual heat advisory, a heat wave. And I hadn't been in a couple years because I had moved across the country at one point. So this was my first time back after a couple years, and it was miserable. We were walking around sweating, it was just the worst, so hot. But at the same time, we only had a couple days there and we didn't want to not do anything that we planned to do. So spring it is. You could still go in the fall in September or even November, but September kind of brings the same crowds, not as crowded as October, but it's still going to be really crowded in September. Now, November, if you go right after Halloween, you're going to avoid the crowds because it is like a ghost town come November 1st. All the decorations and everything will still be up despite the lack of people, but a lot of businesses close down the day after Halloween for a few days to give themselves a little break from that October rush. So if you visit right after Halloween, you may miss out on being able to visit some of the shops you wanted to see. Okay, so pros of visiting Salem in the spring. Number 1, the weather. Number 2, the flowers will have bloomed in the garden behind Rope's mansion. Everything's really lush in the spring there. It's really pretty. Number 3, all the same businesses that are open year-round in Salem are obviously open in the spring. So you're not going to be missing out on any shopping or restaurants if you don't visit in the fall. Number 4, attractions. You'll actually be able to get into all the attractions you want to see, and you won't have to wait in line. It's really hard in October because a lot of people don't realize you have to book tickets in advance and online. They don't sell tickets at the door for most attractions during October. And even other times of the year, they also require you to purchase them online beforehand. But also in October, you have to wait in line whether you have tickets or not. So that can be a bit frustrating, especially if you don't like crowds. So in the spring, you'll be able to get right into any attractions you want to see. You won't have to wait online, and things won't sell out because there aren't a lot of people there at the time. Number 5 is food. It's going to be much easier for you to sit down and enjoy a meal in literally any other time of year besides October. In October, restaurants in Salem do not take reservations, so you need to put your name on the list hours beforehand once you find out what their wait time is, and then they'll call you when they have a space open, and if you're available, you can go sit down and eat. This is really hard for people who have a tight itinerary. They also don't do takeout orders at most places in October, so you can't even just call and pick up your order and then go eat it somewhere else. So in the spring, you won't have any issues with that. You'll be able to sit down and eat at any restaurant, any bar, and enjoy your meal. Now, cons of visiting in the spring. There's only one that I have, and it's just that you will miss out on haunted happenings. But it is my firm belief that visiting Salem for the first time should always be done outside of October, even though that's not what I did. Again, it was a different time. A different time period, I was gonna say. No, but it was the 1990s. It was not as crowded and popular as it is now, so it's a little bit different. But Haunted Happenings is a super fun time. They have some different events and markets going on during the month of October that don't happen any other time of the year. But you can always go back and visit in October another time if you want to experience that. That's really the only con, and it's barely a con. You're really not missing out on many events by going outside of the fall season. Like I said, it obviously won't be haunted happenings. People will not be walking around in costumes for the most part, and decorations will be toned down outside of October, but they're still there. Skeletons on lawns and in windows, witches everywhere, and that is the magic of Salem. Yes, the town puts on a special show for October, but it's always bringing the Halloween feels. So, to sum this video up, visiting in the spring is your best bet to avoid crowds, have good weather, and be able to do everything that you want to do. And if you love it, which you probably will, and you decide you want to go back, maybe you take a second or third trip there in the fall to experience Halloween in Salem. I really hope this video helps you plan your trip, and let me know what other questions you have about visiting Salem or any other spooky cities in the US in the comments. Like this video and subscribe if you want more travel info. Thanks for watching and stay spooky.